Good afternoon, everyone. And again, I join Libby in welcoming you all. People who travelled vast distances to be here with us today. I'm looking forward to what's going to be a most interesting and stimulating few days. So I'd like to welcome you on behalf of the Australian Machado Joseph Disease Foundation to what is a unique and special meeting. But also, can I also, from the outset, acknowledge the Episcopal chieftains, who Mr. Newman here, Rico Newman, who's joined us today, has kindly agreed to speak to us. It's a big tradition in Australia that we acknowledge the regional owners of the country on which we meet, and we're following that tradition here in the US as well. I'd also like to begin by particularly thanking the members of the Scientific Steering Committee who have played the key role in putting this whole conference together and who have met at very odd hours, dependent on their time zones, over the last several months to put this whole agenda together. In particular, I'd like to acknowledge George Sikiros, Thorsten Smith, Manuela Lima, Louis Piera Delmeda, Laura Harlem, Patricia Maciel, Toma Hillel, Libby Massey, and Desiree Lagrape for their work. In particular, I'd like to acknowledge Desiree, who's put an extraordinary effort in and whose her input and work this conference wouldn't have been possible. So thank you, Desiree. I'd also like to thank and acknowledge the sponsors who have supported our research program and enabled generous travel bursaries to be awarded. We awarded over $35,000 in US dollars, demonstrating our commitment to the importance of international collaboration. Our wonderful sponsors have included the Alan de Liagua Land Council from Groote Eylandt in the Northern Territory, South 32, the big Gemco, who's the mining company that actually operates on Groote, the Telstra Foundation in Australia, the Groote Eylandt Aboriginal Trust, which is a trust that's been established that deals with royalty monies from the mine, and the Lower Institute and James Cook University have all contributed funds towards enabling us to award bursaries to assist people to be here today. I'd also like to thank the organising committee of the IARC, in particular Julie Greenfield from Ataxia UK and Jamie Dean from FARA USA, who have been instrumental in helping us host this satellite meeting. As you all know, the focus of this conference is to advance international research about MJD and to foster international collaborations. We at the MJDF believe that this is a powerful way to advance treatments and innovations in care for people living with Machado Joseph disease. MJDF Australia is a community-based organisation. We fundamentally believe that it is by strengthening families and communities the most effective changes can be made for people for whom living with MJD is a daily reality. Be that as a person living with the disease, a loved one, a family member, carer, therapist, healthcare worker or laboratory scientist. The research that will be showcased during this meeting will provide vital opportunities to strengthen families and communities through science and practice. You will hear from each other about contextual care, issues and innovation in MJD care in low-resourced and culturally complex contexts, clinical research and practice, clinical trials, questions, access, equity and issues concerning clinical trials for MJD, natural history and cohort studies, diagnostic, therapeutic and rehabilitative services, engagement and delivery of services, preclinical and drug therapies, information, advances and collaboration, gene therapies, current knowledge, innovations and best practice, and ethical considerations, and drug compounds and other therapies. And last but not least, disease mechanisms, pathogenous biomarker studies. As I look around this room, I see a brilliant, motivated, articulate and strong people. I see a community. I commend you to each other, and I ask that you take this opportunity in both hands, that you share, learn and grow, and most importantly, that you take what you find back into renewed endeavours, wherever they may be. I look forward to joining you in that. And I'd like to now hand over to Toma to make some comments.
Hello, everybody. When we founded the Israeli MJD Foundation, we thought that we were alone. But with time, we discovered a warm family of clinicians, researchers, and patients. Thank you for the amazing work you're doing, investigating, understanding the disease, mechanisms, building a worldwide databases, developing biomarkers, trying new drugs, and taking care for the patients. And above all, collaborating. Your achievements are incredible. Thank you, with a big sunny hug from the Israeli MJD branch. Thank you. Enjoy.
I'd like now to welcome Rico to come and say a few words. Thank you.
Wele o lako. Te wele mā o hoi isiak. Ne koi hose ne wenge o piskatawe comigo. Yagi o kana hagari. Sheli on kunta wakan. Walamaleso was kishi. Koya namu. What I just recited is a traditional greeting. Sometimes we jokingly say that's probably the first words that Leonard Calvert heard when he came to these shores that we now call Maryland and Washington, D.C. We don't know. Nobody recorded what the natives had to say. But it was a welcome. And we make it our business that when people come to our land that we welcome them, especially if they give us notice that they're coming, which we don't usually get very often. And so we're certainly grateful for those opportunities when that does happen, that we can share some things with you that maybe you don't know or maybe you had heard, but it glanced off. And one of the things is that this land that we stand on, we knew it, it's Nakachtank, which means that it was a place where trade took place at the edge of the waters. Today it is covered by what is called Bowling Air Force Base, baseball stadiums, the U.S. Capitol, et cetera, and even this institution. Was kind of a throwback for me now because I attended this campus about 52 years ago. I hate to date myself, and the school was on the other side of Van Ness, not over here. But anyway, the other thing that I think you need to know is that this entire mass of land that we call North America or the United States, we call Turtle Island. We call it that because of our creation stories. We also have names for many of the places around and up and down. I gave a map to someone here that has the names of many of our towns that were along the rivers and the waterways. And the name of what we call this, which is today Washington, D.C. and Maryland, we gave it a name where it means the place where waters blend, the place below the rapids. And if any of you have ever been up the Potomac and seen the rapids, you'll know exactly what we're talking about. I can imagine why they didn't want to keep the name that we call it, Yagio Kana Hagai. I mean, who wants to say that 5 times real fast? But it means the land between the waters. North of us, we have the Monocacy. To one side of us, we have the Patuxent. To the other side, we have the Potomac. And south of us, we have the Great Shell Bay known as the Chesapeake. And you have to imagine, I had a long discussion with a Shinto priestess who, during the time that we were going through a lot of arguments, especially out in the plains about water rights, about the names of the waterways. And we had to explain to her that we don't name water. And we tell people that if you're somewhere where the water isn't moving, you're welcome to it, because it's not probably fit for you to drink or to eat anything that might somehow found a way to stay alive in it. Water moves. You look out on the waterway right now and turn your head and look back, it's not the same water. How are you going to give it a name? You might as well name the air that just blew past you coming into this building. So this is our homeland. We don't call it our land because we feel that nobody can own the Earth Mother, Hakianishka. You can't own her. She basically owns us. So when you look around, everything in this room, I don't care where it is, who manufactured it, it had its beginnings in the earth. Even if you rolled up in here in a Mercedes limousine, it had its beginnings in the earth. And we respect the earth for that, because without the earth, there's no plan B. Yet. Still looking for one, but there isn't one yet. So with that, I will say, we wish you all peace, happiness, and a long life while you're here in our land. Aho.
Thank you very much. I'd like now to invite Goangwa Lalara to respond to the welcome and pay my own tribute to Goangwa, who is the Vice Chair of the MJD Foundation, very much the person who's been the driving force and inspiration behind the creation of the foundation and the work that it does. And we're very pleased that Goangwa was able to make it here and attend the conference over the next few days. Thank you, Goangwa.
My name is Goangwa Lalara, and I came for the first time here. It's a long way from home, but I bring greetings from my families. Thank you.
I bet you didn't think you were going to learn things even before we started today. Thank you very much for those warm welcomes and for that lovely information. Excuse me. I need to do a little bit of housekeeping for everybody this morning. So just to start off with, we do have toilets on every floor here. They are through these doors and down towards the left of the building. There are fire escapes that are clearly marked with the exit signs, and they are straight ahead to the rear and the left of the building, and also to the right of the ballroom. We are meeting here in what's known as Ballroom A, so if you hear that talked about, this is Ballroom A. The posters are in the adjoining Ballroom B. A few little bits and pieces about the program. If the speakers could just check in with Desiree, who looks like this, just in the session or the break before your session, just to make sure that we actually have got your presentation uploaded correctly. We have a really tight program, so unfortunately we're not going to be able to go through everybody's bios, so there's no disrespect at all intended there. It's just a matter of timing. So the moderators will just be introducing the name of the presenter and their talk. If you have got Twitter, we would be really grateful if you could tweet. The tweet handle is #MJDConf, C-O-N-F, 2019, at MJD Foundation. I think it's on the slide, isn't it? There is Wi-Fi access for those of you who haven't found it already. So you need to go to UDC, University of the District of Columbia Wi-Fi. Set yourself up as a guest with guest access, create a username and then you can log on that way. Tomorrow we are having a patient panel where we have the opportunity to speak to people who live with MJD, and we'd like people to have a think about the sorts of questions that they would like answered. So we have set up a Mentee, I don't know what you call it, poll. Yep. So the details for that I think are on the slide there. There is a number that you need to use. The code is 170050. And you can do that from your smartphone. So just go to that web address, set that up. If you've got any difficulties with those sorts of things, just come and see Desiree or I, if we're not up here talking. We are also filming the sessions. There's a lovely gentleman at the back by the name of Jed. He may come up and adjust things if you're a speaker because the quality of the sound isn't great, but that's the reason he's there, so that's completely harmless. I think that's just about it. So again, welcome. I'm just going to get myself settled for 2 minutes because I'm the first presenter. So then I'll introduce myself again.
And George is online, just so we
Oh,
know.
fantastic. Okay.
Hello, George.
Hello, George. All right. So this is ready.
So you just click here.
Oh, we have got the notes.
The notes are there when they come up.
Okay.
Are you all right?
Yeah. I think so. Okay, my first official task is to present something that I think is really important, a presentation from Professor, I'm going to get it wrong, Patricia, I'm sorry, George Shakiris. Apologies all round for the Australian accents today. We're going to murder all sorts of names, but that's just the way we are. We're trying really hard, believe it or not. So I have the honour of presenting a talk by George, and I think that I've known George now for about 10 or 11 years, and I see him very much as one of the grandfathers, if you like, of Machado Joseph disease, so I feel very privileged to be able to do this. And this is what George wanted to tell you all today. So first of all, I'd like to greet all those present at this conference, the patients and families, the scientists and clinicians, and the hosts, the MJD Foundation, particularly Desiree and Libby for their efforts in putting things together. But also to greet the traditional owners of Groote Eylandt in the person of Gayangwa Lalara and through the Anandaliagwa Land Council, who continue to support the MJDF, the patients and families afflicted, and research about Machado Joseph disease, as well as the other hosts, the Israeli MJD Foundation, and the sponsors. Receiving us here at the margins of the Pontomac, a very special salutation to Rico Newman, spokesperson and elder of the Piscataway Konoi, who has been leading a long and hearty battle for the preservation of the land of the people indigenous to what we now call Maryland. Let me also thank very warmly the MJD Foundation for having invited me to the scientific committee of this conference in representation of the Research Advisory Committee of the Machado Joseph Disease Foundation of Australia. But also as a keynote speaker, I have tried to keep my duties regarding the first task, but quite unfortunately for me, I'm not able to attend in person, nor am I able to present in any format the topic I had chosen, pardon me, on Machado Joseph disease patient associations. Nevertheless, I will take this opportunity to acknowledge properly the pioneer and dedicated work of Mrs. Rose Marie Silva, an Antoine Joseph's descendant from California, who established the first patient association for this disease in 1977. Due to its multiple initial descriptions, Machado Joseph disease was thought to be various diseases. That's why it was called the International Joseph Diseases, plural, Foundation. Here, Rosemarie is pictured in a field trip we conducted to try to find the origins of the Joseph family in the northeast of mainland Portugal in the early 1980s. The work of Rosemarie in the West Coast and of the Machado and Thomas families in the East Coast of the US was determinant to provide support and care to afflicted families, but also in bringing together the scientific community involved, conducting weekend free clinics, mainly in California, Massachusetts, Rhode Island and Florida, thus also fostering research on Machado-Joseph disease. The IJDF promoted the first international research meeting in Lisbon, where the name Machado-Joseph disease was adopted to honour the two largest affected and the more active families by then. In 1976, the multiple diseases were proven to be a single entity, mainly through the work of Corino Andrale and Paula Coutinho. After multiple field trips to the Azores, Paula Coutinho had a key role in the clinical definition and diagnostic criteria of Machado-Joseph disease. After more than 40 years' involvement with Machado-Joseph disease, I take great pride in having been present as an invited speaker at the launch of the Machado-Joseph Disease Foundation, Australia, at Anuragu, Groote Eylandt, August 2008, and in being part of its Research Advisory Committee since its establishment in 2009. Following on the steps of the IJDF, the MJDF organises, after the 2015 conference in Cairns, what is actually the 7th international meeting of its kind specifically dedicated to Machado-Joseph disease. We can look forward to an excellent program and hear great speakers, and I do wish you may all enjoy a pleasant and highly productive meeting. Warmest regards to all, George. Thank you. You're going to be really sick of the sound of my voice, is what we say in Australia. I'm going to be sick of the sound of my voice after this. But now I have the privilege of presenting to you my own expose, I think, on the Machado-Joseph Disease Foundation. And, is that right?